Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Alton West. Today I will have guests on from the LaGrange Art Museum, as well as guests from the LaGrange Police Department. So stay tuned for those interviews coming up in just a moment.
Just what you're hungry for. It's in downtown LaGrange. You have 17 restaurants to choose from, and each has its own personality, from chef-driven establishments to life on the casual side. Celebrate, create traditions, make new friends, discover new tastes. Downtown LaGrange is simply delicious. So come on down.
Welcome to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm sitting down with the Executive Director for the LaGrange Art Museum. I'm sitting down with Karen Briggs. Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alton. Good morning.
Well, good morning to you. It's a pretty chilly outside, so I'm glad we're here in the warm studio this morning.
It is, yes.
And we're here to talk about something that is really near and dear to your heart and to the residents of Troup County. And we're very fortunate to have the LaGrange Art Museum, and you as the Executive Director there. Talk a little bit, Karen, about your role as the ED.
Well, thank you, Alton. Yes, I am the Executive Director of the LaGrange Art Museum, and am responsible for its daily operations and for implementing the elements of completing the long-term strategic plan and fulfilling the mission of the organization. So it takes me across a wide variety of duties on a daily basis, everything from making sure that the exhibits are installed and are curated correctly to overseeing a construction project right now.
Absolutely, and I think most of us have seen that. And Karen, I know that you're new to, well, I shouldn't say new to the area, but you are here in the City of LaGrange by way of New York, if I'm not mistaken.
Connecticut.
In the area. Talk a little bit about, because I know that the location has been a number of things in the past where the construction is taking place. Tell the people what it used to be, if you remember.
Well, apparently it used to be a number of things. Actually, that corner, it consists of 3 conjoined buildings. It was a former farm supply, feed and seed, if you will, an arcade. I think the front of the building there, right on the corner of Morgan Street and Lafayette, was at one point an arcade. And then the long, narrow strip between that rectangular warehouse type building and the museum itself was at one point a barber shop or hair salon, I understand.
That's right.
And then I guess originally the railroad tracks ran right along where the sidewalk is now on Morgan Street, directly across from the Catholic Church.
That's
so
right.
Yes, we have quite the construction project taking up the corner of Morgan Street and Lafayette.
That's right, absolutely. And so it's exciting to see the things that are happening there. And you said you were talking about, you know, some of the exhibits and things of nature, or you know, the placement of things there in the museum. Talk a little bit about some of the exhibits that you've had there at the museum.
Oh gosh, you know, we've been so fortunate. We have a very small budget at the Art Museum, but we have, and as a result, rely on the generosity of the community and of lenders to help us to put exhibits on the floor at the museum. And we've had such a wide variety of exhibits from people who own collections that they're willing to loan us. We've had a partnership with the Booth Museum of Western Art, which allowed us to partner with local lenders and do a stellar exhibit of Western art. We very recently had a Norman Rockwell exhibit of Norman Rockwell, very rare photographs of Norman Rockwell, candid shots of Norman Rockwell. We've had an exhibit of European artist Eugene Carrière. We've done American folk art, and we've had a lot of fun doing every one of those exhibits. Of course, we feature local artists and work with the Visual Arts Alliance of LaGrange annually. We have the National, the LaGrange National, which again will take place biennially in February of this coming year from now.
Okay.
So it's been a wonderful experience to have such a nice variety of exhibits that we can put up at the museum.
Absolutely. You were talking about local artists too. I remember the last time that I visited the museum there, it was a display of local arts, and one of my friends had some stuff there on display, and I got an opportunity to see some of some of the one of the stage persons here. His wife had some art there on display. Amy had some art there on display as well. So, you know, again, and I always tell people, my son is an artist. I can't even draw a stick man well, so I have high regards for those that can do it.
We can help you with that. Alton.
You can help, okay, all right, very good. Now, you were talking a moment ago about you rely on the generosity, because one of the things that I've noticed about, tell the general public, what is the mission?
Well, if you're a Troup County resident, admission is free. We're very fortunate because we've got a large support of donors that provide the annual operating support for the museum, and at least in part contribute to our ability to function. And we are therefore able to be free to the residents of Troup County. We ask for a $5 contribution from non-county residents, but if you live in the City of LaGrange, and particularly the county, because we do serve the county, we have many programs which reach into all corners of the county. So if you're a Troup County resident, your admission is free.
Oh, can't beat that, can you?
No, it's actually a wonderful value. It is. You don't find free admission to museums outside of Washington D.C. very much. You know, most museums charge.
Absolutely.
And so we're very lucky in this community.
Well, very good. We appreciate that. You know, the center's growing.
We
talked about the construction is taking place. Talk a little bit about what's going on there, and also you said you can help me with classes. So I think classes will be offered too. So talk a little bit about the construction that's going on.
Well, it's definitely making a mess. If you haven't noticed it, it's not hard to find it.
That's right.
We've stopped traffic with dumpsters and knocked holes in walls, and we've re-roofed the building, and it's been a big fun project. Basically, what's happening is that structurally, the building has historically been oriented and entered from the Lafayette Parkway side. In order to allow it to adapt to serve a multitude of needs, we've reoriented it such that the primary entrance is going to be across from the Catholic Church on Morgan Street.
Okay.
So the parking lot at the back, there's a multi-level parking deck, has a very low-level pad that comes in at the lowest level, and it actually accesses the back of that building. So from now on, we'll be accessing through that lower-level deck, walking down an ADA-compliant walkway ramp, and entering the building on the Morgan Street side. Then when you enter the building, we're going to have a large variety of options inside the building. There is a demonstration kitchen courtesy of Home Depot, which will allow us to do cooking classes and cooking demonstrations, whether it's for adults with master chefs or whether it's for children and their parents. We have an event space which is multi-use purpose. We can show films, we can do dance events, we can have lectures, parties, classes.
Oh my goodness.
We have a pottery studio, completely functional with 6 wheels and 2 kilns.
Okay.
And then we have artist studios that are leased to master artists. The artists in residence will be moving into those artist studios in the old farm supply, the warehouse section at the back.
Okay.
But within those spaces, we're going to offer a wide variety of classes. So yes, we can teach you to draw a stick.
Okay, very good. You know, I have been there a couple of times. I am also a big, and the art museum always allow the bigs and the littles to come every month to participate in an art program. And you know, it's quite interesting, some of the things, and you know, the array of things that you all are going to be offering to the general public. And I'm going to ask the question: those things will be offered at no admission to the general public as well?
No, there is a tuition fee for the classes.
Okay.
We're trying to keep the cost nominal, but of course the artists / teachers have to be compensated for their time. And so does the museum staff for administering the programming. But we're trying to keep the costs relatively affordable, you know, relatively at the bottom of the end of the spectrum. We look at ourselves kind of as a bookend to the Mike Daniel Recreation Center, so that you've got a resource for physical recreation and classes that you can take at Mike Daniel's, and then you also have a resource for kind of emotional, creative rejuvenation.
Okay.
And you can come in on a date night, or you can come in for a birthday party or a bridesmaid's party, or with just a class for yourself, a workshop. Then we'll be offering everything from pottery to wood turning to sewing to watercolors to juggling and magic and cooking and anything
wow.
creative.
Anything.
Yeah,
Exciting.
bonsai, you name it. In fact, we're looking for suggestions. So if there are classes that people want and things that they want to learn how to do, we're even doing a trash to treasure. We're going to go to junkyard, we're going to dumpster dive and see if we can find some, teach a class on how to convert, fun trash to treasure.
Oh my goodness.
So
exciting.
we're trying to run a rainbow of opportunity there for creative learning.
Great. I mean, this is exciting. So I know that everybody's wanting to know, when is this going to be open?
Good question. It's officially opening to the public on the 20th of March. However, we have a rolling opening with a succession of 5 events that will take place for that opening. There's the Troup LaGrange Chamber of Commerce ribbon cutting, which will take place on the 18th. Okay. On the evening of the 19th, or the afternoon rather, there is a by invitation only event for our partners in creative education. Educators, the academy directors, the Big Brothers Big Sisters, Troup County teachers, all across. So we're doing a little open house for anyone involved in the educational world.
Very good.
The 20th is our cocktail party and our creative cocktail, wear what you will, opportunity to come in and see artists at work, do make and take activities for adults, throw a pot, get muddy, get in there and just sort of experience the center as it's going to be.
Very good.
That's Friday. Saturday is going to be our Super Saturday, which you've participated in as a Big and Little, where the children and their attending adult come to participate in free art activities. So we expect a large turnout for that.
Very good.
And then Sunday, not to be missed, is our 21st Annual Creative Youth Art League, where over 500, last year we had close to 700 students, their parents, and their teachers fill both buildings for an adjudicated art show, which draws from 5 counties, all kids K through 12. We partner with Kiwanis, and we've done it. It was founded by Morrill Turner Hutchinson, and we're now in its 21st year. So it's going to be 5 days of extravagant creative chaos.
Absolutely. And you know what? I don't think that they could have a better executive director with all the energy and with all the excitement that's going on
Thank you,
there.
Alton.
I mean, just great for the public to come out, to take part, to participate, and to bring forth some ideas. Who knows? You talked about the cooking, the pottery, and everything that's going on. So I just know that the public's going to come out and support this. And don't forget that grand opening.
That's
and
right.
Tell them that date, those dates, one more time if you don't mind.
March 20th.
March the 20th. All right. Well, Karen, it's a pleasure to sit down with you and talk about all the things that are happening at LaGrange Art Museum, and I wish you well and with the grand opening and everything.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back for more City Week in just a moment. Welcome back to City Week, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm sitting down with 2 of LaGrange's finest. I'm sitting down with Sergeant Dale Armstrong and Corporal Wesley Ingalls. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to sit down with you gentlemen. It kind of brings back memories of my days in the blue. Sergeant Armstrong knows a lot about that. And Wesley, I think you and I didn't get an opportunity to work together, but I've had a chance to work with you here now, and it's been great working with both of you gentlemen. Sergeant Armstrong, I'm going to start out with you. Talk a little bit about, because both of you gentlemen are in the traffic division.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about the traffic division for us, if you don't mind.
Okay, well, the traffic division, of course, is just a unit of the police department, uniform unit. And our job primarily is to get the pedestrians, vehicles through our city as safely and as efficiently as possible. And we do that in a manner of ways. We do that through education, enforcement, and engineering. Those are our 3 E's that we live by in the traffic section. So we spend a lot of time on education. And of course, we work traffic fatalities, we work traffic wrecks throughout the city, and we do special events. You know, any kind of special event that's handled through the city, it comes through our office, and either we let the other folks handle it, or we coordinate them all.
Okay.
So it's kind of an exciting kind of little part of the unit there, and we enjoy our time there.
A unique part of the traffic or the police department too, because you talked about your 3 E's, safety, and of course education being perhaps the most important. And I know that Wesley, you are very instrumental along with Sergeant Armstrong there. Talk a little bit about your role there in the traffic division.
I work during the day shift. I work a lot of the wrecks that occurs in the city. We have approximately about over 2,000 accidents. Well, actually we call them collisions because it's really a driver error that causes the accident one way or another. It's either one of the driver or both drivers. We average about over 2,000 a year, which averages about between 150 to 200 collisions per month in the city of LaGrange. So a lot of this about education is a big role. You got a lot of inexperienced drivers that just learn to drive. They haven't had a lot of exposure. So the more you can educate them, it's going to assist them as they're going through their travels through the city. Then you got people that's been driving a while, and you develop habits. And the bad thing is once you develop a habit, it's kind of hard to break. So we try to give people education as far as that, hey, don't do this. This law has changed. And laws constantly are changing in the state of Georgia for driver safety. Like the child restraint was 5, it went to 8. Then the seatbelts, there was no seatbelts in a pickup truck several years ago. And they actually changed that to all vehicles. And they've always had a motorcycle helmet law, which is an excellent law.
Absolutely.
And then your DUIs used to be a .10, now it's a .08, mostly nationally recognized. So the education in the law is constantly changed, so we're constantly trying to educate people and let people know, hey, don't do this no more, like blocking intersections and stuff like that.
Right. So many times, like you say, the law is constantly changing, and you gentlemen do a wonderful job of trying to help educate the general public about those changes as they come about. Help us to understand, because I heard you mentioning a collision. Help us to understand the difference between a collision and an actual accident. And I'll just open that up to either one of you gentlemen.
An accident would be, say you had your car parked in the middle of the road and there was a storm come through and a tree branch just fell on your car. Or your neighbor's cutting down a tree and he estimated it would fall in one way and it falls on your car. It's pretty much an accident. He didn't intentionally mean that the weather didn't intentionally mean to take out the tree and knock your car out, or he didn't. The guy cutting down the tree wasn't intended for it to fall on your car. A collision is usually as a driver. The reason a collision occurs is a driver has made an error in the traffic law. And most of them are failure to yield the right of way, following too closely, disregarding traffic controls, and failure to yield the right of way, or improper lane changes. Most of your accidents are about right, Sarge.
Okay, all right. And then I hear you talking about, and I think that's why education is so important, because I think it seems like the common denominator there is human error.
That's right.
Yes.
Human error. What about distractions? And I know that we see a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it sometimes myself, but I try not to, we're talking on the telephone, or either we get that text that comes through. Talk about how much does distractions play into accidents or collisions?
Well, anytime you're distracting yourself from driving, whether it's on a cell phone, and it could be kids in the back playing, it could be other drivers, or actually I was arresting somebody one day and the driver ended up having an accident watching us by an error. And
onlookers, they call them.
Right? Yes, and people see a collision and people want to know,
That's right.
And with the social media out there, a lot of people tend to want to put it on there, and people, they're in a rush every day. They tend to grab the phone and try to cover bases with that angle, or try to go through their shop, getting their shopping list ready, what they need to pick up for dinner. And it's a lot because we stay such busy throughout our day. And anytime you got a distraction like it, there's usually all kinds of distractions, and usually that's what causes a collision. Our person is in a hurry.
Absolutely.
Like when they pull out into an intersection or go through the yellow light, try to, as people say, beat it, which actually they're running on the yellow light and end up changing. And that's the reason there is a certain delay on intersections on the traffic lights. And it's usually because the person's in a hurry. Either they got too much on their plate, or they woke up late, or something happened that morning or that evening that has delayed their travel, and they're trying to make up for the time.
Have that tunnel vision sometimes. I think that,
Yes, sir.
the tunnel vision.
And what a lot of folks don't know is there's studies show that if you're texting and driving, you're 23 times more likely to be in a wreck than an alert driver.
23
So
more.
texting and driving, those kind of distractions are far more of the most dangerous things we've seen on our roads
Absolutely.
now. And it's because you're not paying attention. You're paying attention to that phone. Even talking, you're not really worried about your driving. You're worried about talking on the phone. And driving secondary, where it should be primary.
Absolutely. And I have to understand, it's a law.
And it is law.
It's a law that you're not supposed to be texting. I don't think that we have passed the hands-free phone at this point.
Not yet.
But again, you're talking about distractions. That isn't a distractor. I want to shift gears here just a little bit, because I know a lot of times we're talking about education, we're also talking about traffic, and we do see at certain times of the day in our city we have a little bit more traffic congestion than at different times. I want to talk about at the intersection of New Franklin Road turning on to Commerce Avenue. A lot of times people will see the traffic in afternoons back up a little bit, by Dairy Queen. Why is it that we can't make that right-hand lane a turn lane only onto Commerce Avenue? Can either one of you gentlemen speak to that?
Well, it's basically a 4-lane highway. If you take that away, you're gonna have all the traffic built up in the inside lanes. The only way that would really benefit making a right lane is if they actually took the sidewalk out and made a right turning lane. But the City of LaGrange has no control over it. It's a state highway. The state of Georgia has control of that highway.
Okay.
And it's like the traffic light. One time we were having problems with the traffic light. It wasn't changing properly, and we've contacted the state and said we haven't had more problems recently. So I'm assuming that the state has got that fixed. And also a lot of times people are traveling down Commerce Avenue and they turn right on the New Franklin Road. Well, there's a no turn on right on that intersection because of the traffic. When the light changes, the northbound traffic's moving, and so there's a no right turn on red. A lot of people's not aware of that. And there's only a few places in the city, but they should always check, make sure there's no right turn on red.
That's right.
Make sure they got time enough to make that right turn, and they got time to yield to the traffic, because if you're at a traffic light and you turn in front of somebody, there's a collision, you're going to be at fault, failure to yield at a traffic light. Then like a stop sign, a lot of people are not aware, when you're coming out of a private driveway, you have to yield to all traffic. Even the road across from you that has a stop sign, they've got more of the right of way than you. So you need to always fail to yield the right of way. If you're involved in a collision, you're going to be at fault.
Absolutely.
And and if you stop and figure, time the officer gets there and it's in your car's tore up, and then you got to get, how many people can actually walk to work? Most people need a car. You either got to find a second car at the house or borrow one from a family member, or if you got rental coverage on your insurance, you're going to have to file the claim and get a rental car. And if you look at what it costs to fix a car nowadays, it's not like it
almost throw away
with the right. If you look at, a lot of times people get a car and it's in excellent shape, and they have a collision, and next thing you know, it's totaled because the value of the car is not as much as it's going to cost to fix it. It's not that it's not a good car; it's just the fact that it's what insurance does business, and people don't realize that your insurance goes up. Then the inconvenience of you being out of a car, then you got to get another car, learn that car, and possibly, and it delays a lot of your travels even more if you just waited a few seconds.
Absolutely. Talking about that, just waiting a few seconds. Sergeant Armstrong, I know that the LaGrange Police Department has been offering defensive driving classes for a number of years. Talk a little bit about that for us, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, we've been offering it since around 1997, so that's been quite so many years now. I'm one of the instructors, and just got certified Officer Engel there to start teaching that class as well.
Very good.
And we talk about in class the same things we're talking about now. One of the things that he was talking about, where if you just waited a second, the definition of a preventable collision is one in which the driver fails to do everything reasonable to avoid it. Well, just waiting a second is one reasonable thing. Or the definition of defensive driving is driving to save lives, time, and money in spite of the conditions around you and the actions of others. So waiting just a second, watching it's what all we've been kind of talking about today, just watching, waiting, looking, and being aware of what's going on around you, so you're not in a wreck, because you may have to wait for that police car, you may have to wait for that wreck, you may not have a car. So you can be right, but you also be dead right.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And you're talking about all those waiting, watching, and educating, and I know that one of the things that we do still see that happens quite frequently is intersection blocking. And I want to, as we get ready to close out here, talk a little bit about that, and it's going to lead us into some safety tips that are going to be shown here on City Week coming up in the coming months. Talk a little bit about intersection blocking. How should that be addressed by the police department?
Well, we've put signs up and above the traffic control devices. I don't know what years, but there were several years as a sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to get people, hey, you know, don't block the intersection. And people think because the light's green, I go under the intersection. That's actually against the law. You should never enter into an intersection you can't exit. And sometimes, you know, they get too close behind a tractor and trailer, like Morgan and Greenville and Lafayette Parkway and Greenville and the Parkway. They'll get in between them two lights. You know, you need to increase your foul distance when you're behind a tractor trailer. What happens? That tractor trailer runs the yellow light, turn goes to red, and you go through the red light. If you're following too closely, you're not going to see that light change because of the big trailer. And you know, it being a state highway, we have numerous trucks that come down New Franklin Road.
That's right.
And then they're traveling the 27 and 29, and they're constantly coming through them. But more and more industries building and stuff, and especially like Pegasus Parkway, we got all the industries out there coming from Sawan and everything. We got that coming through, and everything else, industrial park out there. People, when you block the intersection, basically when you get out there and you can't make that left or right turn, then the light's going to turn red.
I'm saying you just stuck.
So now you're stuck in the intersection. Now you're blocking the other traffic
That's
from
right.
proceeding through their travels,
That's right.
or you're going to run the red light. And 9 out of 10 times, most people run the red light.
That's right.
And do the fact, and that could increase, and eventually, you know, it's going to increase their odds. They're going to be involved in a collision because, I mean, not people when, you know, when a traffic light turns green, you need to look both ways and make sure it's clear that nobody did run the other traffic light, the opposing one, so that you can proceed through the paper. A lot of people don't know that they need to stay, wait a second,
That's right.
and then proceed, just in case there is. And a traffic control device, it is mechanical, and there can be errors. So, you know, so that you don't get hurt or somebody come flying through there trying to get through the intersection, and then you end up getting T-boned, your family member getting hurt, or
That's right.
you know, could cause more problems for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to sit down with both of you all, and you know, we just hope that our general public will take heed to these traffic tips that you all are giving, and definitely, you know, pay close attention to the intersection blocking, because we do see that being a big problem in our community today. So thank both of you, gentlemen, for being on the show today, and definitely want to have you back on. And thank you for helping me come up with some traffic safety tips for our general public so that they can continue to be educated about how to defensively drive in our city. So thank you, gentlemen, so much.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for more City Week right after this traffic safety tip.
The two red vehicles are traveling south behind other vehicles on Ragland Street, and both drivers are trying to cross Lafayette Parkway. Both drivers had to stop in the middle of the intersection because the traffic stopped on the other side. Both drivers should not have entered the intersection on a green traffic light unless both drivers can proceed through the intersection without stopping. Usually when a driver is in the middle of the intersection, the traffic light changes from green to red before the driver can exit the intersection. The driver blocking the intersection will either remain in the intersection blocking traffic and preventing other vehicles from moving. The LaGrange Police Department would like to remind you, do not block intersections. Not only is this a good safety tip, but it is also the law. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for joining for City Week this week. My guests have been from the LaGrange Art Museum, the Executive Director, Karen Briggs, as she talked about the construction project that's underway and also the upcoming opening that will be taking place on March the 18th through the 20th. So make sure that you come out and take advantage of all the events that will be happening. And as always, go out and look at some of the artwork. You might just be surprised. Also, ladies and gentlemen, I had on from the LaGrange Police Department, Sergeant Dale Armstrong and Corporal Wesley Engel, as they talked about, again, defensive driving tips and safety tips that we all need to be aware of as we drive in and around our great city of LaGrange. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you stay tuned for safety tips coming up on City Week. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed these interviews, and I want to invite you back for more of City Week.
Why United Way? Because in some way, everyone in our community is touched by your donation to United Way of West Georgia. Yes, everyone. United Way helps 25 local agencies touch thousands of lives, even yours. To cause so many good things to happen, these organizations must have volunteers. Fortunately, more than 2,300 local volunteers are now giving time to the 25 local organizations that United Way of West Georgia helps support. Yes, more than 2,300 volunteers. But more are needed. Please volunteer your time as well as your financial support. You'll be astonished at what you'll receive in return.